the National Football Foundation. What's your mission? What do you guys do? Like, what is the purpose of the foundation?
So, we're just coming off our 75th anniversary. So we've been around a long time. But basically, we preserve the past, promote the present, prepare for the future, and protect the game and the opportunities the game provides. And that's a big point for us, because if you want to be involved in football, so you go any Friday or Saturday or Sunday game, there's a lot of people involved in football that don't have their hand on the ground or wear a headset.
Sure.
So there's a lot of different avenues to be involved. And there's not a better activity in this country that brings a community together like football. I don't think anybody can argue that point. So we're charged, at the end of the day, we're asked to promote and protect the game. And so all of our programs reflect that, whether it's a nationwide chapter system, which is kind of Rotary Club for football. We're in 47 states, have 120 chapters. Well, that's through our College Football Hall of Fame. We oversee, obviously, the criteria, the selection, and the induction of the class. Our Hall of Fame buildings in Atlanta. We have a very robust scholar athlete program. We have 13 of them, in fact, at both the college and high school levels. And with a big point of focusing on not just the value of education, but also, that football a lot of times is that vehicle to get you to that education,
right?
And keep you educated and keep you in school. So we really push on that, we work with the college and universities very closely, and that's really what they ask us to do, because obviously, as you know, they have a lot on their plate. So that we're kind of Switzerland, and we kind of work the middle ground there.
And one of the things I think really matters, and this is obviously just my opinion, but I think one of the things that really matters is the way that the game has changed. And I think the way that the college system has changed. We see a completely different business model in basketball.
Yeah.
What is the health of, in your opinion, what is the health of college football right now? And how much impact do you think things like the transfer portal and NIL have on the prosperity of football and the current health of football?
I think, again, overall, I think overall football is very healthy. We have to remember there's, you take away FBS, there's still over 600 schools playing college football. There's 773 total schools playing football across the country. So, overall, the game is healthy, and the fan interest is always really high. Yes, we have the issues with NIL and the portal and playoff expansion, but I don't know how much that affects going to a football game on Saturday. Because I think if you're going to a game at Utah or BYU or Utah State, or even Weber State and any of those schools, you're going there, to watch the helmet. Who's wearing your helmet of your school? You went to school there. You've been a fan of it. You're still going to go. Now, where the NIL and the portal come into play is that it really creates challenges, within the sport, because you got to really manage that. It's roster management all the time. It's keeping people happy. Whether anybody agrees with that or not, that's part of it. So it's really different if you're in an athletics department or in the football program, because you got to manage all of that.
Yeah,
especially the roster management. And again, we're by no means anti-portal if it's good for you, or anti-NIL. If you can make a little money on the side, great. But you need to be getting your education, especially when someone else is paying for it. So the FBS and FCS, the football players are fortunate to be on the full scholarship. So let's get our education while someone's paying for it, because we do have a student debt problem in this country, and college football players, at least at Division I, they're not having to worry about that. So our concern is how this is going to affect graduation rates moving forward. And so there's a big push going to be on our part to get that messaging out there and make sure people don't forget. All this movement is fine, and new opportunities for student athletes is great. But at the end of the day, your greatest path of success is a college education.
Yep, talking to Matthew Sign, the Chief Operating Officer at the National Football Foundation on the Monty Show, presented by BladeHQ.com. And one of the reasons I asked that is I feel like, we're the players today, it feels like to me, are in a hurry for the paycheck.
Yep.
And you bring in portal, you bring in NIL, you have guys that play at 3 different schools.
Yep.
So it really has become about the helmet and the logo, I think, for a lot of fans, because we have so much turnover. But I also ask you about the health of the game, because that turnover, I think you look at things like reach. I think you look at the current situation with the Pac-12.
Yes.
The Pac-12 is in a very precarious situation at this moment. Now, who knows what's going on behind the scenes there, right? But when you look at the conference system, and we hear all about the 2-conference system or major expansion, like, where do you see the game maturing to or growing to from where it is now? Do you ever envision a college football system that's just 2 major conferences?
Well, I guess anything is possible. I think if anybody can, heck, if you can look forward 2 years and tell me what's happening, I'd be shocked. Again, I don't think anybody is looking to reduce the number of schools playing football, and certainly at the FBS level. Now, fair, unfair, there's going to be gaps between conferences, and so we're going to have to figure out a way to work within that system and make it work. We're not going to abandon college football in the West. That's not going to happen. We're going to have to adjust to a new world, and I think they will, because there's a willingness and there's a need to have that big presence in your not on your campus but your community. Like I said, nothing brings the game together, like a college football weekend. And not only does it bring the fans together, the alumni, but think what it does for a community on a Saturday or a weekend. Again, whether that is Corvallis or Eugene or Provo or Logan, there's a reason why those weekends are special, and those are great fundraising weekends for the university. You can't replace that, and so there's an understanding for that. But I think there's just too much out there right now to say anybody can predict what the future looks like. Yes, you got 2 conferences that are ahead, as far as the TV contracts go, but who knows where TV is going?
Yeah. And the other thing I thought was interesting yesterday here at Big 12 Media Days, you have Mike Gundy sitting up on the national stage talking to everybody, saying Bedlam's dead. And you look at the rivalries, you look at, like, I'm a Chicagoan, man. I miss Michigan and Notre Dame every year.
Yes.
Right? It terrifies me that, and I know they say they're going to preserve it, but Notre Dame and SC, you look at Utah and BYU not playing on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I think the rivalries are a big part. You talk about community. Man, I don't think there's something that brings Los Angeles together like USC and UCLA. Or do you worry about that passion going? Because the game is changing. I don't think there's any doubt. Do you worry about those rivalries and losing the passion?
I do, and because that's one of the the great things about, and that one of the things that separates college football from the NFL, from other sports, is the great tradition and rivalries. And that's really, on the back of those has been the growth of the sport. Now, some have diminished in importance, but they're still there. We've lost some. You hate to lose Bedlam. You hate to lose games like that. And hopefully there's a way, again, crystal ball in the future, that we can find a way, to preserve that. Even to, I know the BYU Utah State series is important within the state. If I remember correctly, that was traditionally a Friday night game, if I remember,
for the wagon wheel.
And so it's, I understand, you got to go through these changes, and hopefully those things come back, because they are important to the sport. And I think you're right. We can't lose those. So we got to find a way as we move forward in the future to preserve those as much as we can. I mean, that'd be just awful if we lost USC and Notre Dame. Yeah,
and both sides want it. Both sides, and they're going to keep it. I think.
No question. And and maybe that plays back into, everyone looks at strength of schedule. So maybe that plays a part of it as well.
Yeah, totally agree. So what's next for you guys? I mean, obviously, I am very passionate about the education piece. I think that we really, as a sport, I think we're chasing paychecks instead of degrees.
Mhm.
And so how do you guys fix that? When you talk about evangelizing the educational piece, do you have a plan to do that? How will you roll that out?
So we just launched internally within our board of directors an education committee, and it's going to be co-chaired by two of our board members, Ronnie Lott and retired U.S. Navy Admiral William McRaven.
Wow.
And so had our first call 2 days ago to kind of set in motion what we want this to look like, and what are going to be the goals and objectives of the committee. And obviously, not just promoting the value of an education, but what can we do? Is there ways we can incentivize college football players across the country? Stay in school, finish out the semester, finish out your degree. Is there things we can do? So that's going to be a big part of what we do moving forward. And then really pushing hard again on all of our different programs at college and high school. Try to get to them early.
Can you bring guys back? Because obviously there's a big piece of, hey, my mom always told me to get my degree, so I went back while I was playing in the NFL or whatever that might look back. How important is it to get the guys who didn't finish to come back and finish that degree?
I think that we have a number, and I have to find it, but we have a number that shows that that as far as sports go, college football is amongst the highest, if not the highest, of individuals coming back get their graduation. So we'll continue to push on that. In fact, on the call, Ronnie Lott talked about a number of former NFL teammates who've gone back to college and gotten their degree. Mm-hmm. So it's still important that the part of the idea is, let's remind them how important it is right now, and don't try and go back. And that's the other, what school are you going back to? Yeah. Depending on when you transferred, how many times you transferred, so that's another, so you got all these little issues. So there, there's a lot of great people in college athletics working on it, but it is complicated. But the education part cannot fall by the wayside. Yeah.
Especially with the debt piece you talked about.
Yeah. That's something that I think probably doesn't get talked about enough, as certainly at, the Division I level, FBS, FCS, that, and trying to get, the student athlete as much as possible. Let's don't disregard what they are getting and the cost of an education. Yeah. Which for someone who is paying for a college education currently, and my worst thing is it ain't cheap. Yeah, no, it's not. No matter where you are. Yeah, I agree. Matthew, nice to meet you. I appreciate the work you guys do. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate what you do for college football. Thanks for being here. You bet, man.